Good afternoon and welcome to Middlesex County Council. It's Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 at 1 p.m. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'm sure you are as relieved as I am to see March on the calendar. The gradual lifting of restrictions we have seen over the last week is very welcome on many levels. As always, the restrictions are being lifted not because the pandemic is over, or not in response to a loud minority. They are being lifted because a large majority of people have acted responsibly, and because of their actions, the chance of transmission has lowered. On Friday, February 25th, the Middlesex London Emergency Services headquarters were honored with a visit from the Premier. Premier Ford had come to London for an announcement, but also asked for some time with the paramedics to express his appreciation for a job well done. He met with over 40 emergency service personnel and made time to chat and thank them for their tireless work over the last 2 years. Premier Ford received a warm welcome and had many selfies taken with the crew at the headquarters. The work done by our emergency services in partnership with Middlesex London Health Unit and the Serve volunteers has proved vital for getting shots in the arms of people who may not have had the opportunity otherwise. The number of vaccines has passed the 8,000 mark and is a great testament of the value of working together. So there's a shot of everybody with the Premier. And as for the events that are taking place in the Ukraine at the moment, oh, there's us with the Premier. He was quite excited by the new ambulance and the bus too. Back to this. As for the events that are taking place in the Ukraine at the moment, we watch in horror as residents taking shelter, residents being displaced or fleeing. For those of you that are Ukrainian who have friends here in the county who are from the Ukraine or have family in Ukraine, now is a good time to reach out and make sure they're doing okay. It's important that they feel secure and supported in our communities. I know the county has seen our municipality's support by collecting goods, flying flags, or lighting our parks to help us deal with our bewilderment that this is happening once again in this day and age. I know that we're all hoping that some type of resolution comes soon. History has taught us that in the past, many innocent people will be involved. I know that Canada, as history has also taught us, we will always welcome refugees and provide a safe haven. And this is what fighting for freedom really looks like. And now we're going to move on to provision for disclosure of pecuniary interest. Anybody have any pecuniary interest? Being none. Moving to business arising from the minutes. Seeing none. And now moving on to the minutes of February 22nd, 2022. I'm sure you've all had a chance to look at them. Councillor Richards, you're moving. Okay, and second. Councillor Elliott, all in favor? Great. And I didn't say adopt the recommendations, that's separate. Okay, so we're going to do a separate one because I failed to mention the adoption part at the bottom. So looking for a mover to adopt those recommendations from the meeting. And that's Councillor Burghardt-Jessen, seconded by Councillor Mayhew. Everyone in favor? Thank you. We also have, it seems so long ago now, the minutes of the December 2nd, 2021 inaugural meeting of County Council. So looking for a mover. Councillor Corneliuson, seconded by Councillor DeVete. All in favor? Perfect. And I know that you've had some closed meeting minutes that have been distributed. So that's the minutes of the closed portion of November 9th, 2021 visioning session of council, the minutes of the closed portion of the November 9th, 2021 meeting of council, the minutes of the closed portion of the December 23rd, 2021 meeting of council, minutes of the closed portion of the January 11th, 2022 meeting of council, and the minutes of the closed portion of February 8th, 2022 meeting of council. Okay, and looking for a mover to accept those minutes as presented. Councillor Ropp, seconded by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? So moved. Seeing no deputations, any inquiries of notice of motion? Seeing none, we're going to move into no reports, new business. Well, we have something here. That is the Albert Street Road widening confirmation. And this is a report from Wayne Migger, the county barrister and solicitor. So Wayne, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, through you, Madam Warden to Council, thank you. As Council will recall, at its last meeting, it passed a highway dedication bylaw number 7151 to correct an issue stemming from 1978 and 1983, where certain Albert Street Road widenings were not registered on title. Having the LRO correct some of these older issues like this, it's not always an easy task, and it is necessary to work with the LRO administrators in this regard. And while PIN numbers are properly included in dedication bylaws, in this unique case, the LRO has asked that the PIN numbers not be in the bylaw, as it is in the process of changing PIN numbers for this property and doesn't want to later cross-reference old PINs with new ones. And so while this is a little inconvenient for the municipality, we can and do need to provide what the LRO is requesting. So to that end, I would kindly request for Council to pass the amended bylaw attached to the report with PINs removed. Subject to any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Wayne? Okay. Seeing none, then we're looking for a motion that says County Council pass a bylaw designating parts 1 and 4 as in 33R 939, part 1 and 2 as in 33R 556, and parts 8 and 19 as in plan 33R 19731 as municipal public highway with PINs removed. Looking for a mover? Deputy Mayor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Burkhart Jessen. Sorry, not Deputy Mayor, Councillor Elliott. Thinking I'm not too comfortable. I'm thinking I'm at home. And looking for Council's decision. So in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay. Councillors' comments and other business. Councillor Roth.
Thank you, Warden. I just wanted to let council know, I know there was a notice went out to an email, but on the passing of past Warden Charlie Corbett, or Charles Corbett, I should say. He's also a past reeve of McGilvery Township and was on council there. He came to the last Warden's banquet. He was still at the last Warden's banquet in Lucan. And I just want to wish the Corbett family well. He was always a gentleman, and he was just a great person to have in the community. And I want to say my condolences to the Corbett family.
Thank you. And I think CO Rayburn had something that he wanted to say as well, that we can script announcements now and go ahead and say it.
Yeah, I'm glad Brian raised Charlie's passing and just recognized it. There was, on behalf of the administration, there really wasn't too many other people that we had from that generation that just bled Middlesex, that we knew as a leader. And Charlie did that. Like everything about Charlie was about Middlesex, other than where he was born. He was born in a great location, and we shared that in common. We were both born in North Bay. But Charlie was the kind of person that would find something about you and gravitate towards making you his friend. And not only Charlie, I mean, Elizabeth, who predeceased him, we got excited whenever we would have past wardens events, because both of them would come in and they meant so much to everybody here. So I just wanted to share one quick story about Charlie. We really did sponge-like listen to every word Charlie said. And, you know, if you go around the county and talk to leaders, there's so many leaders in the county that are from Charlie talking to them about being a leader in the community. The first time I met Wes Hodgson, he said, Charlie Corbett told me to get into politics. And there's so many times you hear that story from great leaders in our county. But I did have the opportunity in December to spend an extended amount of time with Charlie before he passed in December. And I was talking to him about, he always had a story to tell. And he knew I was so excited to hear stories from his generation. He told me about the HMCS Middlesex. And there's a display in the basement here. And he loved this building. Charlie's name is on a lot of plaques in this building. As a person that was a longtime lover of buildings and great buildings and an engineer, Charlie had a lot to do with the success of this building. But the HMCS Middlesex display meant a lot to Charlie because he actually told me, and I didn't know this until December, he went down to the inauguration. What do you call that? Whenever they bang is that what it's called? Not inauguration, christening. That's what I'm going for. Good thing Chris came up with that. Christening of the HMCS Middlesex with his father. And he told me in a very detailed way about that whole trip for him and what it meant. And that's what I mean about Charlie just bleeding everything Middlesex. He, like from a small child, he was here for the very most important parts of our history and had a seat right at that table. So everyone in our senior management has heard stories from Charlie, and we lapped them up. And he'll be sorely missed, as will Elizabeth. Just two great leaders in our community. And thank you, Brian, for recognizing that.
And I was lucky to meet Charlie this summer at the Pioneer Village. That was the picture that was just on the screen. And that was for the Irish Benevolent Society, which he was a proud member. And it was really nice to be able to talk to him at that time and the other members there. So it's great. Okay. So now we're moving.
I'm sorry, I'm on the screen.
Oh, sorry, Joanne. Yeah,
That's
go
right.
ahead.
I know, I'm inconspicuous right now. I'm on the screen instead of in a chair. I know that the warden and the Women's Caucus today did a video in response to International Women's Day, and I just wanted to highlight the importance of International Women's Day. Someone asked me yesterday, why is that important why is it significant? And I think it's really significant because we all have a part to play in society. And the theme this year is Women Inspiring Women. And as we celebrate, it's really a celebration of all women and girls. And whether you are inspired to be a leader in what we do, or the choices that they make in their day-to-day lives in the contribution to either social, economic, political spheres, whatever the choices are for women, we need to encourage them and make sure that we stand by them and support each other. And I want to thank the Middlesex County Women's Caucus for all the work that they've done over the last couple of years. The support that they've given to me and to each other has been phenomenal. And I also want to thank our male colleagues for the support that they've given us and helped us to shine in the work that we've done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so any other comments before we move on? Seeing none, we're moving on to bylaws. So we have 10A, which is 7153, a bylaw to dedicate lands as municipal public highways, which is the Albert Street Road widening. And 10B, 7154, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the March 8th, 2022 meeting of council. So looking for a mover, Councillor Richards, seconded by Councillor DeVitt. All in favor? Thank you. So that was the first and second reading, and now we're moving on to the third reading, looking for a mover. Councillor Mayhew, seconded by Councillor Corneliuson. All in favor? So moved. Now we're moving into the committee of the whole, which is at 119, looking for a mover. Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All in favor? All right, so now we're moving on to, do we have any delegations or reports of county officers? Seeing none, moving on to the action items. See, we don't have any action items. Correspondence and information items. So we have 11C1, 11C2, 11C3, 11C4, 11C5, 11C6, 11C7, 8, 9, and then I think what we'll do is we'll stop with those and look for a mover to accept those as presented. Okay, so everybody had a chance to look at them. Councillor Ropp, are you moving? Okay, and seconded by Councillor Smith. Any questions, comments? Okay, and so calling the vote, all in favor? So moved. Now we're moving on to 11C10, the Rural Education Task Force Report, March 2022. And I'm thinking that Councillor Corneliuson has his hand up and would like to talk about this.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I would ask the County Council support in principle the recommendation of the Rural Education Task Force as set out in 11C10.
Okay, so we have a mover. Do you have a seconder? Okay, Councillor Elliott, any discussion before we call the vote? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. And through the warden, first off, I want to thank Councillor Corneliuson for bringing this report forward to council for our consideration and support. I have to say that I am utterly disgusted at the letter that came directed to our county administration from Thames Valley District School Board demanding that this be removed for discussion. And I would like to thank our administration for keeping it on for us to speak to. The work that the task force undertook and provided in this report are exceptionally important for the success of our rural schools in our communities across Middlesex, Oxford, and Elgin. Thames Valley District School Board at the very least needs to acknowledge that the needs and resources of our rural schools are different than those in the City of London, and that the 2 years worth of work that the Rural Education Task Force did to consult and put together this report just amplifies this. The school board chair stated that the public would be confused if we discussed this report, as she believed the public would be under the impression that the school board themselves would undertake these recommendations. I want to be completely frank in that nobody is confused. This report is clearly labeled draft on every single page, and the report is clearly from the task force, not from the Board of Trustees. Now the school board is doubling down on this report and calling it, quote, incomplete and unsuitable for the public to see. However, you can see from the report that this task force had full staff support, and at no time were concerns raised. Why at the 11th hour the school board has decided to fight this is unsettling and unnerving, especially as tonight they begin the debate on whether or not they will remove a Middlesex County representative and therefore a rural voice from around the table. The purpose of this and the mandate of the task force was to listen to ideas and concerns from the rural communities, generate fresh perspectives related to the rural schools and communities, develop innovative solutions for consideration by the school board rural education strategy, and report the findings and recommendations to the board regarding rural schools. They have done exactly what their mandate was asked to do, and I don't understand where the confusion lies. It was a well thought out and innovative report that allows the school board and municipalities to work together to drive success for the children in our rural community. I commend the work of the Rural Education Task Force, including Councillor Corneliuson, for their work on this, and I'm happy to support. I would just like to end this and comment that I hope at the end of all of this discussion, in order to mend these relationships, I hope that the Director of Education and the board chair send a written apology note to the CAO clerks in each respective county for the letter that was sent to our staff, which was completely disrespectful. I will also add that today, Superintendent Paul Snyder from the school board was quoted in the London Free Press today describing us talking about this issue as, quote, disrespectful and irresponsible, which I would highly disagree as adjectives for elected officials discussing issues impacting our community.
Thank you. Any other comments? You know, it was noted it was a draft report. I think any of us that have had municipal experience sees reports come to us that are in a draft revision and are looking for comments. So I would think this would have been a similar circumstance. And Councillor Vanderheyden, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. And I 100% agree with Councillor Elliott. When you even read the document where it states what we've learned, and this is what the task force learned, the bullet points there, those are like, they jump right out at you. The importance of considering rural needs and decision-making. We are part of the school board. Our schools are part of the school boards. How do we not consider the rural needs in decision-making? The need for differential approaches. There is a discussion between the importance of schools in rural communities and how they are funded. There's a piece in there about transportation, and we all know with COVID how many buses have been canceled lately. That directly affects the students in our communities. The importance of equitable access to student programming. How fast I've seen programs leave rural schools because they say they don't have enough of that point, so many students in order to fulfill that role, and then students have to go to different schools in order to get those subjects. That is just not the way that schools are meant for our students to get the highest quality education that they have. So I 100% agree with my colleagues.
Councillor Corneliuson.
Thank you. And thank you for the support from all the councillors here. I would just want to add that throughout the duration of the task force meetings, senior staff from the board participated and often led the discussion and brought forth ideas and recommendations on how to proceed. And so they were a big part of what the final report or the draft report actually says. So when it was submitted to them for consideration, our follow-up meetings were canceled by the board. And so we could not develop a final report at that time, given that it is due to the board March 22nd. And so this report is coming forth to all 3 counties this week for county council support and consideration to be brought to the board.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I think I am a clerk's nightmare because I did call for a mover and a seconder on that. And that was supposed to be with the other ones. So we'll pull it out and we'll do it separately. And I think the motion is that county council support the recommendations in principle of the Rural Education Task Force as set out in 11C10. Okay, so we've got a mover, we've got a seconder. No more comments? Okay, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? So moved. All right, so back to 11C11, which is, yep, go ahead, Councillor Berg.
Just on follow up with that. So I assume then this will be forwarded to the school board as soon as possible so that they can see our endorsement of the motion in front of us in the report.
It's my understanding that we may have a meeting, the members that are willing to attend to develop a final report. If not, then this report will be forwarded to the board as is.
But our recommendation should be forwarded. Yeah. I'm looking to my clerk and my clerk is nodding yes. So that is. Okay, all right, so back on track. Any other comments before I start? Okay, so 11C11, which is the Middlesex London Health Unit Board February 2020 meeting summary. Then we're moving on to 11C12, the AMO policy updates. 11C13, the letter from Minister of Long-Term Care, which is regarding additional COVID-19 prevention and containment funding. And then we have 11C14, which is the Planning and Advisory Committee meeting minutes, February 17th, 2022. So looking for a mover to accept those reports. Councillor Richards, seconded by Councillor Mayhew. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Any inquiries? Seeing none, moving on to new business. So in new business, we are going to move into closed session. And the next portion of the meeting is going to be closed in order to consider advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege and labor relations employee negotiations pursuant to subsection 2392F of the Municipal Act. So we're looking now for a mover. Councillor DeVitt, seconded by Councillor Ropp. All in favor?